Hey, we're back out of the sawmill today. The other day I was out here milling some beams and I had a couple problems. I've fixed those problems and I've come up with a fix that's going to help me mill longer beams. Hang out for a minute. So if you're new to the channel, I've got a Norwood LM29 sawmill. I got it, I assembled it, milled out some beams, they turned out beautiful. Since then, it's been about a month and a half of it just sitting here. I had it tarped up, it rained a bunch. When I graded this, I moved some dirt from that end to this end to level it. This end could have settled. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't level anymore. My fault. The other day I just took and rolled a log up on it and started milling. Milling off the top, it was fine. But when you get down to that bottom board, when you're trying to mill from the deck up, that's when you're gonna run into a couple problems. That's where your mill, your deck, has to be level. So the other day I ran into the problem. The boards I cut off the top are fine. The very bottom board is the one I have to fix. Took everything off, I leveled out the deck. When you level your deck, you level the tracks front to back and side to side. Then you level your bunks and you measure from the bunk to the blade on each one to make sure that blade is the same distance away. And these have a little bit of movement in them, so you can move them up and down just a little bit. And that's all it really takes, just a little bit. So I leveled out this deck and I measured from these bunks up to the blade. The last couple bunks are just a smidge lower, which makes it thicker at this end, one of the problems I was having. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen these and get them exact to the blade, just like the ones at that end. The other thing I'm going to do is this last bunk down here. Let me take you down here. This last one right here, I'm going to move this one bolt pattern up, because when you pull that bandsaw mill or that bandsaw blade, if you rest a log here, the bandsaw blade stops here. So you can't rest anything on this. It's, in my opinion, a little bit pointless to have it where you can't use it. So I'm going to move it up one bolt pattern. Hopefully that doesn't mess with anything. I don't think it will. The rest of these are placed at joints in the track. There's a two-piece track, so it keeps it really rigid and you don't have little bumps when your wheels are going down here because the joints are offset. And that's where most of these other bunks are joining two pieces together. This one is not. So I think I can move it safely one bolt pattern up, rest a log here, the blade comes to here. Now I can utilize this bunk. So let me go ahead and readjust a couple of these last ones and move this one forward or backward, whichever way you think. So I set the measurement on the side of this machine at exactly 4 inches. And then I measured from the bunks to the blade, the bottom of the blade, exactly 4 inches. And there's my cat, movie star cat. So all the bunks are exactly 4 inches. It leaves 4 inches of board left on the table after you cut. I also moved this bunk backward on the deck, one space. So when you come through, if you rest a log on this bunk, you come through, your blade actually comes through that log. Where it was resting before, your blade would not have come all the way through it. And I don't know if I just made a mistake in the assembly process and it's supposed to be here or not, but this is going to be a better position for me because it's actually going to support the end of a log when I'm milling it. Down to this end of the machine, this has a pretty good distance. If that's all the way back, there's a pretty good distance from here to the blade. You don't want a lot of overhang, but if I'm going to roll a log up on here, it's not going to overhang more than maybe a little over a foot. So I'm not too worried about this. What I might do is I might move my dogging system around a little bit. Maybe I move all my dogging systems down one section so that when I'm milling longer logs, the longer part is up here, where right now the longer part of the log is down there if I'm milling something longer. I don't know, I'm always kind of tinkering with things to try and find what's better, what works better. And I'll keep you posted on what I do to make changes to this, just in case you might have an LM29 or something similar. You can see what I'm doing to make mine better. Let's get that last board loaded back up here and locked down and see if we can make a cut, make a pass, and square it up just nice. So that did it. That took care of the problem. It's 4 inches thick all the way down, one end to the other. It's even from side to side. Just took off maybe a 1/16 of an inch, which is all the thicker it was all the way down. I happened to notice that it was out of whack before I got to that 4-inch mark at any point in this board. So I had a little bit, a 1/16 of an inch to work with. But that takes care of that. I can flip it up on end and get 2 4x6s out of that. And then I need 4 4x4s out of these other 2 pieces that I milled out the other day. And I think we can get some 2x4s out of there too. So that huge log that I started the other day is done. It's all milled out. I've got as much lumber as I can, timber, what do you call it after you cut it? I forget. But I've got as much as I could out of it. And there's 2 4-inch by 6-inch by 15.5 feet. There's 4 4-inch by 4-inch. And there's 5 4-inch by 1.5 inches. So the 4x6 and the 4x4s are my dad's. He'd requested those. So the next time he comes up, we'll throw them on the top of his truck. He'll ship them back down to his house. And the 1.5 by 4, or 2x4s if you want to call them that, those are mine to start on some of the projects I have going on. I've got a lot more trees out there that are dead standing trees, or trees that are almost dead, that I can cut down, bring them in, and mill them out. There's no use in letting them completely die out there in my property, fall down and rot. I might as well use the lumber for one of my projects around here. Saves me a ton of money. So lesson learned, make sure your machine's level before you load a log. I don't know if you want to do this between every log or just after your machine's been sitting a while. I'm probably going to do it between every log. I've got a level and a square sitting right over there against a tree that are basically dedicated to this sawmill. The square is there so when I square up a log, I make sure it's actually square. I'm just going to leave the level there so I can come over here and level the machine real quick, make sure it's level before I load a log. Moving that bunk forward one spot helped out a lot. My log didn't have a lot hanging over, and I didn't have to worry about that last. It seemed like the last little bit of the log was the part getting kind of fat. And thank you to Norwood for chiming in and leaving a comment on the last video I put out. They pointed out a couple things I could do differently and a couple things I should check. It helped out a lot. It's hard to find good customer service, and for them to go on YouTube and search out videos where people are having problems so they can leave comments and help the people with their machines, you couldn't ask for a better customer service than that. This is a scrap pile from milling out that log. And if I can remember right, I think that log was a 16 by 17 inch, 16 inch one way and 17 inch the other, thick. So I've got the 4 pieces I cut off. This first piece is a thin piece that I had to trim up so I could cut a couple more of those 2x4s. And then the next 4 pieces are just the pieces that I had to cut off to make it square. There is a little bit of waste in there that I probably could have used, maybe a 6-foot 2x4 out of the first one and maybe a 8-foot 2x4 out of the last one. I'm not worried about that because I need to make stickers for when I'm drying my wood, and that's what I'll use this stuff for. I'll stack it all together on the sawmill and I'll rip 3/4 inch pieces out of it. It's usually what I use to sticker in between the pieces that are drying is 3/4 inch pieces of wood. And then the rest of this will get thrown in the fireplace sometime this winter and burnt for our heat. So if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell for notifications, and hit that like button. Help this video get out there. Until next time, guys, go make something.